What if the most powerful position in the world could be bought? In ancient Rome, that's exactly what happened. Didius Julianus, a wealthy Roman senator, became emperor in the most bizarre and shocking way possible. He literally purchased the throne. Imagine an emperor who didn't conquer lands, gain military victories, or inherit power, but instead bought his way into the most coveted seat in the Roman Empire. In 193 AD, after the assassination of Emperor Pertinax, the Praetorian Guard, who were responsible for protecting the emperor, decided to auction off the imperial throne to the highest bidder. Julianus, eager for power and willing to pay a fortune, won the auction, becoming emperor. But what followed was nothing short of a disaster. His reign, bought with money, was met with outrage, scandal, and an empire on the brink of chaos. In this video, we'll dive into the intriguing life of Didius Julianus, the emperor for sale, exploring how he rose to power through an auction and how his reign crumbled under the weight of his own ill-fated decisions. Stay with us as we unravel this dramatic tale of ambition, betrayal, and downfall. A story that reveals just how fragile power can be when it's bought and not earned. Didius Julianus was not born into chaos. He was born into privilege. By the standards of Rome, Julianus had lived a successful and respectable life long before he ever imagined wearing the imperial purple. He came from a wealthy family, received an elite education, and climbed the traditional ladder of Roman power. He served as a senator, a governor, a military commander, and eventually as a consul, one of the highest offices in the empire. He was experienced, shrewd, and very rich. But Rome in the year 193 AD was a city on edge. Emperor Pertinax, a disciplined and reform-minded ruler, had been assassinated by the Praetorian Guard, the very soldiers sworn to protect him. His crime was simple. He tried to restore order and curb their excesses. With his death, Rome spiraled into uncertainty. The Praetorian Guard suddenly realized something dangerous. They held the real power. The empire had no emperor, the Senate was paralyzed with fear, and Rome's streets buzzed with speculation. Instead of choosing a leader, the Guard did something unprecedented. They put the empire up for sale. Inside their barracks, two men competed for the throne. One was Septimius, Pertinax's father-in-law. The other was Didius Julianus. Desperate, ambitious, and fully aware of the moment, Julianus made the highest offer. He promised each Praetorian soldier an enormous bribe, more money than most Romans would see in a lifetime. As night fell, the deal was done. The Empire of Rome, ruler of the known world, had been sold to the highest bidder. What Julianus didn't expect was the public reaction. Rather than celebration, Rome erupted in outrage. Crowds filled the streets, hurling insults and curses. To them, this was not a transfer of power, it was humiliation. An empire built on conquest and honor had been reduced to an auction. Julianus had won the throne. But in doing so, he had already lost Rome. The following day, Didius Julianus was formally declared emperor. The Senate, surrounded by armed Praetorian guards, had little choice but to approve. Fear outweighed principle. Publicly, they accepted him. Privately, they despised him. Word spread quickly through the city. The price was known: 25,000 sestertii per soldier. It was a staggering sum, and everyone understood what it meant. This emperor ruled not by loyalty, not by merit, but by money. Rome had been purchased. The people reacted with anger and mockery. Crowds followed Julianus through the streets, shouting insults. Some called him a thief. Others called him a merchant, not an emperor. His palace guards tightened their formations as hostility filled the air. The Senate, too, simmered with resentment. They had long feared the growing power of the Praetorian Guard, and now that fear had been confirmed. The throne was no longer sacred. It was a commodity. Beyond Rome, the reaction was far more dangerous. Roman generals across the empire watched closely. They commanded loyal legions, hardened by war, and they saw weakness. In Syria, Britain, and the Danube frontier, commanders were already weighing their options. Julianus tried to project confidence. He addressed the people, promised stability, and spoke of generosity. But every promise sounded hollow. Everyone knew he had bought their silence, not their respect. This moment marked a turning point. Rome had crossed an invisible line. The throne could be sold once, it could be taken again. And ambitious men were already preparing to do just that. The tragedy of Julianus's reign was not just that it was bought, but that everyone knew it. Once inside the palace, Didius Julianus faced an impossible task. His authority did not extend beyond the walls of Rome. The legions did not recognize him. The people hated him. The Praetorian Guard, the very force that put him in power, was loyal only to money. Julianus attempted damage control. He offered public games, reduced taxes, and made sweeping promises of reform. These were not acts of leadership. They were acts of desperation. Meanwhile, whispers of rebellion grew louder. In the north, a powerful general named Septimius Severus was already moving. Unlike Julianus, Severus had something money could not buy: the loyalty of battle-hardened soldiers. His legions proclaimed him emperor, and one by one provinces pledged their support. The Senate watched the situation unfold and calculated carefully. Severus advanced toward Rome. Julianus' position collapsed. Even the Praetorian Guard began to waver, realized they had backed the weaker man. Julianus attempted negotiation. He offered Severus curule. The offer was ignored. At this point, Julianus was emperor in name only, isolated, powerless, and betrayed. Rome had spoken without using words. Julianus had not earned the throne, and therefore he could not keep it. As Septimius Severus marched closer to Rome, panic filled the imperial palace. Julianus' allies disappeared. Guards deserted their posts. The Senate moved swiftly to protect itself. Within weeks, the decision was made. The Senate declared Julianus a public enemy. His fate was sealed in silence. In the 9th week of his reign, Didius Julianus was executed in the palace. There was no public funeral, no mourning. His final words, according to tradition, reflected confusion more than regret. Outside Rome reacted not with grief, but relief. The man who had purchased the empire was gone. The shame of the auction still lingered, but the chapter had closed. Julianus would enter history not as a tyrant nor a reformer, but as a warning. His reign proved a brutal truth about Rome: power without legitimacy cannot survive. Money could buy soldiers, but not loyalty. It could buy silence, but not respect. In the end, Rome took back what had been sold and remembered the cost of letting it go. The story of Didius Julianus leaves us with an uncomfortable but timeless truth: power that is not earned, respected or trusted, is always fragile. His reign reminds us that authority built on money alone cannot survive against loyalty, integrity, and shared belief. Ancient Rome was a place where emperors commanded armies, shaped laws, and ruled millions, yet in one shocking moment, the highest position in the empire was treated like a product for sale. Julianus believed wealth could protect him, but it only isolated him. People rejected him, the Senate secretly opposed him, and the soldiers who crowned him soon abandoned him. Rome itself seemed to reject the idea that power could be reduced to a transaction without consequences. And while it may feel distant, the message still resonates today. Even in the modern world, influence is often bought through money, favors, or manipulation. But history repeatedly shows that leadership without legitimacy eventually collapses. Whether in politics, business, or society, lasting authority comes from trust, credibility, and the ability to inspire loyalty rather than purchase it. Julianus' story also exposes the danger of systems that allow power to be sold, because once that line is crossed, stability becomes impossible. His rise and fall were swift, humiliating, and fatal proof that shortcuts to power come at a heavy price. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Do you think a Julianus moment could happen in today's world, where influence outweighs integrity and power is quietly bought behind closed doors? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story engaging and thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the most dramatic, strange, and controversial moments in history, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload. These stories from the past are more than entertainment. They're warnings, mirrors, and lessons. And in the next video, we'll explore another controversial emperor whose reign challenged the very foundations of Rome. So stay tuned.